Dear viewers, how do we understand morality, religious rectitude and propriety in a space governed by the rule of law? Do people have any kind of opportunity to react personally when the country is governed by a constitution? How do we respond to things when things affect us in a way that cannot be seen as a cognizable crime? To speak about all that I have with me today, a smart advocate, Mr. Dhananjay. Warm welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are quite interested in taking up very strange, curious issues whenever things particularly deal with the Constitution. So what do you feel about this particular thing, where people feel like they have been affected by the conduct and behavior of Swami Nithyananda?
Well, Swami Nithyananda's conduct, I'm sure, is morally reprehensible. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
But I don't think the issue stops there. The issue is concerned about, the people, placing their faith in a Swamiji and then a Swamiji doing certain things, which people feel abhorrent, and then they take the law into their own hands.
Okay.
So what we are witnessing these days is the mass actually taking the law into their own hands, and
that's not just happening in this case, but it's happening in almost every case. It could be an accident, it could be somebody violating something to somebody, doing anything that is not seen as acceptable by the society.
Yes, and that happens because at some level we don't seem to have a guidance actually. There's nobody to guide the people or the mass as to what would be acceptable conduct and what is not. So people seem to think, well, we are disappointed, well, let's do whatever is necessary to thrash the individual who's been responsible for our disappointment.
Okay.
I think this is basically like a mob justice, and this is actually not compatible with the modern system of law. So therefore, I'm sure everything is not going well.
Okay, even you said that you too feel that whatever that the Swamiji did was reprehensible, was quite disgusting, revolting. But for you to make that kind of a judgment, all that was based on what was shown on TV, and what the TV showed or what the newspapers reported was presumed as what actually took place in the Swamiji's ashram or wherever. So do you think that for somebody like you, who is considered as aware, somebody who also knows the rule of law, somebody who also understands the Constitution, is actually right, because you are basing your response on something that is shown to you?
You're right. First of all, we make assumptions, and these assumptions could be wrong. You make an assumption. First of all, I don't know much about this individual. So an assumption has been made that the individual that is depicted in the visual happens to be the Swami. Now, if for whatever reason the individual is different, then everything else goes with it. So you make assumptions, but at the end of the day, when I say reprehensible, I express it in a very light vein, because I don't think society's happiness has anything to do with whether some individual is celibate or not. Okay. But the media seems to be projecting a picture that for society to be happy, you need this particular individual to be celibate. He's not celibate, so do whatever you have to do, go burn his ashram. Okay. And that, I think, is not a proper function of the media.
But when somebody wears saffron or ochre clothes, that he is actually reflecting a certain thing to the society. He's trying to say that, I am somebody who has become somebody because of a certain belief, faith, or a structure that the society has been adhering to for a very long time. So some natural privileges are accorded to this kind of person who wears a certain kind of clothes, or assumes a certain kind of role, or bestows himself with a certain kind of title.
Well, first of all, let's take the devotees of this particular Swamiji. We are told there are a few lakh devotees, and we would like to...
All over the world,
yeah, all over the world. So let's wonder how many of these devotees would have gone up to the Swami and asked if he's a celibate before offering to become his devotee or disciple. I don't think anybody did that. Okay. The problem is people actually don't decide.
They just assume.
They assume, but then if that is important enough, then one would expect that they make an inquiry and ascertain themselves. So matters of spiritual faith will have to be individualistic, but the problem in our country is, I think it's become actually a very mass phenomenon. You don't make decisions for yourself, but then you let the mass make decisions for you. And then it's bad enough for human intelligence when an individual abrogates his thinking and then actually lets the mass to make decisions for him. But now it's even more worse here, because not merely is the mass making a decision for you, The mass actually wants to feel rewarded. And how do you feel rewarded? You want to be vindicated. You made a decision that you will go fall at somebody's feet, but that person actually is not worthy of your respect because he's shown in media doing many things, so you go, you burn his ashram. So the problem here seems to be
it's
mass.
the problem with you,
the problem,
not with him.
Yeah, the problem, yeah.
And nobody forced you to become a devotee of anybody.
Yes, certainly. So I think that aspect people seem to be missing. People seem to be thinking that, thing is, it's just for them to decide who they will go follow and, adopt as their guru, and it's for their guru to basically, meet one or more expectations. But the problem is, what if the guru basically does not, value those expectations?
Okay. But even when somebody becomes a politician, somebody contests in an election, somebody wins, and you actually make the person completely responsible for his conduct and behavior in the public domain, that is only because you feel that somebody made you a promise and the person needs to keep to it. But in this case too, it's the same thing. When somebody has projected himself to be somebody, somebody has actually tricked you into believing that he is something, then if the person lets you down, don't you think that it's natural for you to get angry?
Well, I don't think the devotees cannot be all that aggrieved because, well, the devotees basically don't seem to be, engaging in even, minimum inquiry. People are just, keen to fall at someone's feet or the other, so they're just in search of a guru. So if not Guru A, then Guru B will come. And so you have had this pattern of gurus teaching upon their disciples for centuries, and I'm sure it will continue for the foreseeable future. So the problem is the mass, basically, whatever is the conduct of the mass that actually gives rise to Swamijis, fake Swamijis, is the conduct of the mass has to be introspected into, it has to be examined.
But is there any provision in the law to actually question these kind of Swamijis or to punish them when they indulge in these kinds of behavior?
Well, of course there would be laws, but then you should be aware that the Constitution of India guarantees religious freedom. So as part of guaranteeing that religious freedom, an individual is free to engage in several acts, in the name of religious freedom, and those acts would be protected by the law.
Okay.
So
for instance?
For instance, there is no question of merit. There is no law that says that you cannot pose as a sannyasi unless you have had some merit.
Okay.
You need to have learnt a few things.
There is no rule that you need to be celibate to be a sannyasi.
Well, yes, that's also true.
Okay. And even some Christian missionaries too have worn ochre or saffron robes, and nobody can prevent anybody from wearing saffron.
Exactly. So these are matters of faith, and the law would not enter into these issues unless there is exploitation of some kind. So the question that we really need to be asking is if this Swamiji did engage in a pattern of exploiting anybody. So in that case, anyone who is exploited by that Swamiji would have recourse to the law. But
because
then we don't know.
As long as people have got what they wanted, if they've gone to him for peace of mind, if they've got peace of mind, if they've gone to him for some kind of a contentment, if they got it, if they went to him for finding some peace and if they got it, and if that was not directly related to his celibacy,
yes.
so I don't think in any way he would have committed a crime.
He certainly would not have committed a crime because sometimes if you look into the Hatha Yoga, the breathing exercises and so on and so forth, several Swamis have become very popular by merely teaching breathing exercises. And to teach those things, you don't need to really, have a certain character at all. You just need to be a technical person to do so.
Okay.
So therefore...
Like it doesn't matter to us as to, what the doctor does at home as long as he's a good doctor.
Yeah.
As long as he can actually
in many
cure
ways,
your disease.
but the real problem arises as to what kind of expectation a devotee comes to a guru with. If the guru basically assumes that his devotees expect him to be celibate, then the guru would have to disclose to his disciples that he is not celibate.
Because if that is the primary question, then,
if
that is not the question, he need not even bother about it.
No, but I think a guru then, well, one would expect now the guru, that Swami to come, into the world and say, well, I did this because I certainly didn't do anything wrong. I don't think that Swamiji would say so. He probably
and
will
my
deny.
Tradition doesn't actually prohibit me from doing this.
Well, in that case, you needed to be so open in the very beginning. First of all, before you could gather, is it foreseeable?
And he called himself a Paramahamsa.
Is it foreseeable that actually you can gather lakhs of devotees